Hey y'all, before we get rolling, if you run a nonprofit, this is for you. Comfy Stone just released a free 90-day donor retention checklist to help you keep more donors through authentic storytelling. Get your copy at comfystone.com/checklist or click the link in our show notes. Now let's dive into this week's episode.
Missions by
Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Missions by You. I'm Josh.
And I'm Maya.
And today we're joined with none other than Chuck Morse, the Executive Director, and Bernadette Carriere, the Director of Thrive Business at Thrive. Welcome in, guys.
Hi.
Great. Thank you guys for having us. It's wonderful to be here with you today. We're going to have a lot of fun today. I can see it already.
Awesome. Well, today we're specifically talking about, you guys do a lot of great work, but you have this big project coming up called the Barbara Lacen-Keller Park. And so basically, why is this park so crucial for in Central City? Why is it so crucial for Central City and New Orleans at this moment?
Well, I like to start off and say that the park, Barbara Lacen-Keller Park, is critical for Central City and New Orleans. A couple things. One is because his reverend is honoring a wonderful lady in her memory, a civil rights leader, an advocate for culture bears, for jazz, for music, and for Central City. They call her the mayor of Central City. If you ever had a chance to deal with her, she's a wonderful lady, but she didn't play. And she was really dedicated to Central City. She did a lot of things. She also helped lead the Martin Luther King Jr. Day march from the City Hall into Central City. And, it stopped there on Claiborne Avenue in Central City. She was a tremendous person, a tremendous advocate, someone who was really advocated for the community. And really somebody on the ground. She was boots on the ground. And she, really was admired by many people. And we think that dedicating this park and being part of it and just making sure that her family knows and understands how the community appreciates her and her legacy and what she's done. And then having a park and a street, part of the street named after her, I think is tremendous from just from honoring somebody who's been a culture bearer, a leader in the Central City. We're losing a lot of those. We're losing, and she was really fighting for the culture bearers and for the people in Central City. Also, the second piece is that it's environmentally. That park is going to be a major asset to the community, a green space. It's going to help with crime in the neighborhood. It's going to help have a place for kids to play. But it's also getting rid of a lot of concrete. And I'll defer to Bernadette, talking about the heat island effect and all that. It was so much concrete in that space as we did the demolition. As we were getting rid of each piece of concrete, we thought about that being opening a light for the community and for the children. When we take the concrete out of the ground and put green infrastructure and plants and this green landscape, we want our kids to understand what green looks like. Not what gray looks like, what green looks like. So that's why I think it's so important. It's so important for a leader in the community, but it's also important for our environment in Central City. In that area, it's an underserved space. And we have to bring that back. That was a thriving place for African Americans, a thriving community. And we think that we're just glad to play a part in just really making sure that Barbara Lacen-Keller is recognized, but also that people in the community understand the value of being a stewardship of the neighborhood of that park.
Wow. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right.
You covered all bases.
It's like this guy's trying to sell this or something.
I'm at a loss for words, right? No, definitely. As he was talking, I was thinking about growing up in the 90s. My family, my mother's side, was from that uptown mid-city area. I actually grew up right at LaSalle in Washington, so I spent many summers there. Riding public transportation to get to, a NORD camp at Delgado. But I think the importance of this park is that in the 90s specifically, we had, the communities were divided. There was the Magnolia Project, there was the Melpomene, and there was the Calio Project. Well, this park is smack dead in the middle of all three. So when you think about the neighborhood has changed, right? The demographics has changed, but just a central location that bridges that gap and just brings all of the new kids, these up and coming kids together and bringing them into a spot where they can all congregate, and it doesn't matter where they're from, they're just there to play. And so I think being named after her, placards, just information just about who she was. Like they're standing on the shoulders of somebody who, made an impact and who made it possible for them to be there, to play and to matter, right? I think, it's hard, for a person of color sometimes to feel like they're significant or worthy. And she fought the cause to say, no, you're worthy and you're supposed to be here and you're supposed to have access to these, these spaces. In urban environments, we don't always see that. And so now we get to create a space that is green, but also it's going to have a huge impact on the heat island effect, right? So it's going to, in rainfalls, we're going to be able to capture at least a minimum of 10,000 gallons of rainwater in the first hour of rainfall. It's just going to be nice, right? It's going to be beautiful. And so we want it to be functional. We want it to be impactful, and we want it to be a place that people actually use, because sometimes we build these spaces and people don't use them. But we're making sure that we check all the boxes.
That's awesome.
I like that you talk about being worthy and her vision of that, because I think a lot of times spaces are named after people of color and they're not given really honorable spaces. And so I'm excited for this space, as you talk about, will be so beautiful and be multi-purpose, and the good it'll bring to the community. But also at the end of the day, just will be beautiful and will be as beautiful as its namesake.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're excited about that, right? Because, as Chuck said, she was a handful, but she meant well, right? And we were laughing about a quote Oliver Thomas said that she would have a way of putting you in place while allowing you to keep your dignity, right? And we don't have those culture bearers that, sometimes you have to you take a stand, check kids, right? Like, no, you have to respect your elders. Like, pull your pants up, watch your language, because there's elders in the space. And she was one of those individuals that made you, you felt her presence, but it wasn't, any fear. It wasn't disrespect. It was all out of love and respect.
And you knew where she stood. She knew, she expressed herself, and I think she was very, sometimes diplomatic, but she was also a person that you didn't have to worry about whether she was going to give you some fluff or whatever. You knew exactly where Barbara stood. And we're also losing our history. I used to say that. And for us to be part of a project, and I want to give a shout out to Councilmember Leslie Harris for really having the vision of bringing this to fruition. And so I knew her, Barbara Lacen-Keller, personally, and I've been one of the people that she's allowed to have that dignity, keep that dignity anyway. But she was a special person, and we want to make sure, and her family's a special family, and to see them in the council chambers or see them come by the site, say, how close are you? How are you working on it? When we going to cut this ribbon? When we going to honor my mother, my grandmother, my sister? It's one of the, I think, most unique honors that Thrive has had in his journey.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. It's like one of those things too, where you're in a city too, where there was a lot of past history. That's now we're like kind of where do we take the next direction? And so this seems like a really good first step to something new to galvanize around.
Absolutely,
that's awesome.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll make younger generations ask, who is she, and look into her story and hopefully inspire them too. We talk about how we're losing those culture bearers and the influential people in the neighborhood and in your community to teach you from to be that, extension of your parents,
Absolutely.
And Maya, we're happy to partner this summer with the Dry Edge YMCA. And we had our, I want to give a shout out to Bernadette also. She has a master's in landscape architect from LSU. We have another young lady named Kristen London on our team, a lady of color, also has a master's in landscape architect. Sure. And we partnered with the Dry Edge YMCA, and we helped try to teach the kids about Barbara Lacen-Keller's history.
Yeah.
And then we also took them on a field trip out to that space that we named after her. And so I think it's just really trying to, as you were saying, make sure that the future generations understand that they stand on the shoulders of mighty people. Barbara was short in stature, but she was strong.
Oh, I'm sure she was mighty. Yeah, she made
up.
up.
The way you talk about her, man. There needs
She
to be a
was a
documentary
force.
at this point.
They should. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Well, TBD.
Yeah. You mentioned your partnerships. How has your previous partnerships or community projects kind of helped set you guys up to be ready to take on this project?
Right. I said earlier we started from the bottom. Now we're here. But it is the fact that we're designated as the city's national disaster resilience operator, which we train the future workforce in the city for green infrastructure and stormwater management. That helped us as we created that workforce, and folks have gone to many places and doing different things, placing them in jobs. But also we worked on the Crown Park. We partnered with the NORA for the Gentile Cap. We partnered with Parks and Parkways. We have our own greenhouse over at Parks and Parkways. And part of this process is just I believe it's the fact that people like Bernadette and Kristen and other folks on our team, Justin, they've done some great work. It's not about me at all. And because of our track record, because of the fact that the city can call on us and know that we have a ready workforce, it's about training people, it's about helping people prepare for jobs, and it's also about changing the landscape. So it's 3 or 4 different things that can come from a partnership with Thrive, meaning that you can be part of helping just really change a person's life, help them gain a skill set for a future job, and then also help them be part of their own solution. The challenge that we've had, Josh, in our city a lot is when we look for solutions, we look elsewhere. What about looking inside the city? What about preparing the people who live here, indigenous people, to be part of their own solution? And that's whole part of this holistic thing we're doing at Thrive. And that's part of why we are so happy to be part of this park development. But we had other projects that help us. Crown Park in downtown was one of the signature projects we worked on with DDD. So I would think that that played a major role in Leslie saying, Councilmember Harris saying, I want Thrive to do this. I want because Barbara would have really been appreciative of having an organization that's led by a person of color, having an organization that serves people of color, but people beyond, but a lot of people of color, and making sure that we're preparing the future workforce, and to make sure that our families can not only survive but thrive. Excuse the pun, but there you go. I had to drop that in.
People for the people.
Yes, indeed.
And I do want to add to that. I think people are paying attention to the work that we do, and we're not just talking it. We are actually doing what we say. We're implementing it. Just as Chuck said, that we are training indigenous people. So we have traditionally, historically, people have been taught, oh, you don't know how to do this. We have lived. I'm a native of New Orleans. I have lived with water all of my life. And, before sustainability was a thing, right? Before it was in fashion, we had to live it. We had to compost. We had to, build our houses up so that we wouldn't flood. We always had to make provisions. And people have been trying to tell us that this is not our space, this is not where we should be. And we have bought into it, right? And so now we're just reiterating, no, you do this. You have, you are an expert because it's a lived experience. You've had to, figure it out. You had to survive. And so just, instilling that retraining and making sure that local indigenous people are prepared and they are well-versed in a space, they can do it, and, we don't have to look outside. We can do the work. We can save ourselves.
And the thing about it is, we were green before green was cool. Oh, we were.
Oh, wow.
We were.
The OG green.
Oh, yeah.
Put that on a shirt.
We were green before green was cool.
We were green before green was cool. I love Andreas at Green Light with the rain barrels, and they paint the rain barrels. And it's beautiful. I love Andreas. He's great. But, we have been doing this for a long time. We may not paint the barrels, but we capture the water. We use water multiple times. We either water our green infrastructure project, our lawns and our yards. We had even fed our livestock. We know what it is.
And now that you say that, I just thought about my grandmother had her millet growing on a clothesline.
Yeah, exactly. So that is, we know what this is. And so why not? I think sometimes we look externally for what we have internally, and why not use some expertise? I know the science, what the science says, and all that. We get that. I know, and Bernadette went to school for all that. That's great. But there's some folks on the ground that would understand it better than someone with a master's in landscape architecture.
And that knowledge, again, from older generations of being able to pass that down and also apply it where it is locally, right? So you talk about your grandmother. I think of things my grandmother did at her house. Like, that applies to us in Louisiana, and there are things that we can can easily replicate instead of having to look outside for somebody else to teach us this thing.
Yes.
I think it would also just feel good for our elders to be able to watch us do what they like, to pass down that knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what does it mean if there is 20 years after Katrina, if we had the workforce and the expertise on the ground, that the folks that had to evacuate and can come back, and we had to bring people from all over the country to come do to help us. What about that we had a local cadre, a local workforce, whatever we want to call it, and had them on the ground doing the work, and had a housing for them to stay in. So maybe they had to leave their homes in the lower ninth and upper ninth, but they had a place to go that was high, and they could come and go down and do the work to help save their own communities. Think about the dignity that gives somebody.
Yeah.
Which that did happen, by the way.
Okay.
As a resident of the Lower Ninth Ward, I mean, the people who came back because of the love that they had for the community. We did that. I came home because I didn't want anybody to tell my grandmother or my mom that we couldn't live there because it should be a green space.
Yeah. I think it galvanizes everybody, right? Like when you see one person doing it and you feel that love, then I'm sure you probably got to pass along to somebody else, a neighbor, someone that lived around the corner. Come back with me.
Yeah. And we carried each other. We supported each other. I remember early 2007, we're having, neighborhood watch parties where me and 3 other neighbors, we paid for the food, the entertainment, just so the kids know, hey, we're back.
You paid for the food. You spent some money.
I spent my own money.
That's indigenous. That's
Why are you acting so shocked, Chuck? What are you trying to say?
But, we did that for the community. And because of what we were doing in the community, because of the investments we were putting into our properties, other people came and you could see the rebuilding specifically in our areas and kind of spreading out.
And I guarantee if you asked any of those kids who were at that party what that meant, right? Like, because then they get to feel like when I'm an adult, I should have a neighborhood watch party, or I should hold a block party, or I should hold something that brings my neighborhood, my community together, and I should be a part of those spaces.
Yes.
That internal.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Yes, indeed.
Real quick, guys, did you know it can cost up to 7 times more to find a new donor than to keep one you already have? That's why at Comfy Stone, we created a free 90-day donor retention checklist. It's simple, step-by-step guide that shows you exactly what to do after someone donates. From how to thank them to how to tell stories that keep them engaged and giving all year long. You can grab your free copy at comfystone.com/checklist or click the link in our show notes. All right, let's get back to the show.
All this being in mind, how are you taking all this into account to really build a plan that's going to talk about what the redesign and activations that are going to be there? Like, what can people expect kind of early stages right now?
I'm going to defer to Bernadette on that because she's the landscape architect in the space. But I think as I've told Bernadette before, there's a plan. But then there's a plan that's outside the plan or within the plan where, because Bernadette's talking to the kids on the ground in the neighborhood and figuring out what they want. That's one thing for somebody to engineer and architect say, oh, this is what it should look like. But what does the kids think? How will it serve the people? And I'm glad that she's getting the community voice and figuring out how. And I'm glad that Parks and Parkways and Councilmember Harris is allowing us to freestyle a little bit and be able to really make sure that we address the needs of the people in the neighborhood. So I'll defer to Bernadette about the actual design.
Yeah. So the design came to us already done. So they just needed installers. But upon installing, obviously we, Chris and I are on a team and we're landscape architects, and we were saying, well, hey, some of this, can work a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
If we did, we installed other programming or other interventions, and they're receptive to that. But we have been on the ground talking to kids. The kids will come up, hey, what are y'all doing? And
Bernadette's a people's champ, believe me.
And I love the kids.
I can already tell.
I'm making it easy for you. Come to me.
Just come on in. And so the kids are like, and so I'm telling them, hey, we're going to make a park. And they're asking specific questions. Can we play football? Is it going to be some type of water feature there? And so we're bringing this feedback to Councilwoman Harris' office. And so, they're taking that into consideration. In this initial stage, it's going to be a basic functional park. And when I say basic, green space, benches, there's a basketball court next door, garbage, receptacles, things like that. But we are considering, and there's going to be trees, right? But we are they are considering altering the plan to include those water features and other features specifically for the kids and, what they are hoping for.
Yeah.
And we're not adverse to trying to seek funding elsewhere also. Because the most important piece is that park is going to have what the kids need and to be successful. It will be green, but also how can they have fun? The question is, how can you have fun in the green?
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do.
And we need more water spaces for the kids.
That's what I was just about to say. It's crazy to think that we
and
don't
there's not
have
enough access, I think, to like,
to these
cool
types of-
down
Yeah.
activities. Yeah.
Because you don't see kids outside, but surprisingly, we see the kids outside in the street throwing balls, and it's kind of nostalgic, right? Because you don't see it, and so for them to want to be involved and say, "Hey, look, can you do this for us?" We should be listening and so that we can consider it and try to make it happen.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah. That is crazy.
And they
to
already
think
have a
about.
basketball court there. I think the Pels built that years ago.
I think,
Right.
Yeah, so we're just trying to make sure that we add into that, so it's more than just a basketball court. It's some green stuff around it. So maybe it's football, volleyball, whatever it looks like. We're trying to, and when you recreate and when you build green space, there's studies that have shown you see the decrease in crime, and more participation and more unity in community.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. That's awesome.
You just mentioned crime and other things. What else can we expect for changes in the neighborhood once the park's opening? Or what else are you guys hoping to see change?
I mean, just more kids, honestly. We just don't see enough kids. And,
kids
they're
outside.
just, you don't even know they exist really because they're always in the house. You talk about, oh, yeah, we have kids that are just playing their games, iPads or whatever. Kids should be outside playing, exploring, and just a sense of community, whatever that looks like. When I was growing up, we had porch culture where people would sit out on a porch, hang out, a DJ or whatever. People would be outside, and engaging in some form of entertainment. And it's like it's disappearing. Like we're losing our culture. So what I hope to see is that, it brings a sense of that back. Evolved, obviously, but just bring some of that old part of New Orleans back, just reinvent it some sort of way.
That's a good.
I also see the fact that it's education too. It's stewardship of the land and value. What I like to see is that I know we're known for food and music and fun and jazz and all the great culture that we have here. I also want us to see us be known for being able to be stewards and be able to go around and teach the world about stormwater management, teach the world about resiliency. I want that label to be tagged on New Orleans also. Just like you say, they're great musicians, they're talented singers. I want that piece to be tagged on it also and make sure that we're valued for more than just entertainment.
For sure, yeah. There's so much more to us, and also what the city's been through of like, how can we use that of all the struggles we've gone through as far as stormwater management, natural disasters, and you be the pillar of like the forefront of leadership of knowing that stuff and helping other cities deal with it.
Yes, very much so.
Because it's also, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it would be cool if a visitor or outsider came to the park and, somebody asked, well, who is this park named for? And you can say, oh, this is, Barbara Lacen-Keller, and she was known for this, but this park, specifically does that. So, obviously, we would love that.
That's a really good point, because when I'm in a city and I see a major street named I Google who that person is. Why do you have this major street named after you?
Yeah, that's true. Especially a place that you can interact with. I mean, that makes it even bigger.
That makes it even bigger. Yeah.
Can I say this? And I'm saying it. Well,
go for it.
I don't have a filter.
Hey, say what you got. You got it. And there's no wrong answers.
When people are removing history, when people are taking down history, erasing history, we're now trying to build history. That's what this park's all about. If I would synopsize this one conversation, is we're not trying to erase history. We're trying to make or replace history. We're trying to make sure people understand our history, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Yeah, because I think if you're trying to erase history, you're trying to hide history. But if you're trying to build history, you're telling the stories.
Yes, telling the story.
So, that's awesome.
Because all these stories matter.
Yes, 1,000%.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like the part you talk about that I think is so important is like we need a place for like community isn't just like you can't just expect people to just make community. You need to give them the opportunities to make it. And there's just no opportunity zones for community. To be built, you know?
When you were talking about it, it made me think. I moved into my house during COVID, and I didn't get a chance to meet my neighbors because of that. And I've kind of been waiting for the time for it to feel like we would become a neighborhood, and it still hasn't happened. I think of how like I see my neighbors have kids. I don't know their names. I don't even know how many they have. Like, right? And so it's those little things of like, if something happened to your child, I couldn't assist you. I couldn't, if they were wandering down the street, I'd be like, I think they belong there. Like, and those little things of growing up, everyone knew who I was, who I belonged to, like a general idea of my age. You know, that's
mattered.
And it held you accountable, right?
Yes,
so
yes,
you were
yes.
accountable for your actions because you knew your neighbors were going to tell your
We're going to
parents.
tell my parents.
Yes.
Also, on the flip side, if I needed something, you know, if I was locked out of my house, if I, you know,
had a place to go.
I had a place to, I knew I could knock on so-and-so's door across the street and like they would help me out or let me use a phone. I could safely call my parents in their home, you know.
That's crazy to think about.
Right. And I said this the other day, and I thought it was a dime. I thought I dropped a dime. Bernadette never says you don't drop no dimes. So. Maybe on Sunday, maybe in the pulpit.
Right.
But if your history is a mystery, you will be also. If your history is a mystery, your people's history, you will not. You will be a mystery. And too often we are mysteries, and because our history is a mystery, we're trying to take away that mystery of our history and really show people and explain to people who Barbara Lacen-Keller, who she was, and what she stood for, and so they all know that history and they can move forward. They hit hell high. That they have their lineage is strong.
And just to expand on that, I mean, I think, you know, we have Black History Month. It's only, you know, the month of February, but we always get stuck on certain individuals. And, you know, there are other people who are just as impactful. And so now this is our chance to kind of expand and expound
That's
upon
so true.
that.
Yeah, because it's like it's all it's the everyday people too. I feel like it's like it doesn't have to be the big giant movers and shakers, but the people that were in the community.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we think about that, and I think about it in the context of during the civil rights movement. You know, we heard about Dr. King and Medgar Evers and people like that, but there have been so many unnamed farmers with didn't have a high school diploma, but they helped register people to vote. Maybe they were killed, maybe whatever. They worked like heck, and where are their signs? Their signs are missing. And I know I love Dr. King and I love Medgar Evers. I love all the folks that led the civil rights movement, Abernathy. But what about those ones in rural Mississippi, in the Delta, that they were facing racism and the Klan, but they still went out there anyway. And so we want to make sure that we don't lose that history.
Yeah, 1,000%. Well, for those people that are definitely wanting to preserve that history and keep that, you know, and have the passion for what they've heard today, where would be the best place for them to, if they wanted to support what you're doing or volunteer for what you're doing, how would they what would be the best place to get in contact with you to do that?
You would go to thrivenola.org.
Cool.
And become part of the movement. We call it a movement.
That's right.
Join the movement.
Yeah.
Join the movement.
I love it. Get in there.
Yes, and we have the world in our hands. That's one of our mottos. And what are we going to do with it?
That's right.
Good point.
That's right. Very cool. All right.
Josh, do you have a hot take question for us?
Last question here. If you, since we're talking about building spaces, you know, we just saw that, you know, they got all these Top Golfs popping up, 504 popping up, you know, all these big things. But if you could build something like your own big thing in New Orleans, like what would it be and why? Well,
I can tell you what I would build, but
that's not Barbara Lacen-Keller Park.
No. It's not the park. I would. I probably.
Well, it is the park.
It is the park, but in the I would build. My heart is saying I would build, in my context of the Thrive, I would build workforce sustainable housing. Because so many people that we see every day, they have housing insecurities. They can't afford to live in our city. We're losing our culture bears because they can't afford to be here. People come here for the song, but they kill the bird that sings the song. So I would build affordable housing, and also make sure that our workforce can be here and can live here and can grow here and they can have sustainable wages. Work housing, affordable housing, so that we can keep our culture and make sure that we can keep our history and make sure that the future of our city is still includes indigenous people.
Yeah. That's great, man. I was thinking along like,
I know,
fun route, but then I was
yeah,
like,
I'm like,
okay,
how do I
wait,
follow that?
all right.
Well, you've got it covered. We can do the fun stuff.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
gonna
Sure.
Same question for me?
Yeah.
I think for me, mental illness has affected me and my family, tremendously. And I think if I could build anything, it would be like some kind of mental health, mental wellness retreat compound, some place where people could go who just are overworked, overwhelmed, some, place where they just need to just like, let me tap out, let me just pause and just get back to where I need to be. And I don't know what that looks like, but I never even thought about it until you mentioned it. But if I could build anything, it would be something where people could just, recuperate and just, take that sabbatical that they need to just, just to recover and to get to jump back into it, because this work is hard. People, expect and they demand a lot from you, and not considering what you do or what you have going on, or just whatever your life's priorities are. And so and we all should be able to have the grace to say, hey, I just need a break. And so just to create that safe space for them to just recover and recoup.
That's all.
I'm gonna have to change my answer because that's a good one. Now that inspired me now. My father died of dementia, and in other countries they have homes that are meant for people who are transitioning through the different phases of dementia. And it felt like where we had to put him was like a locked unit. And it's like, no, but he could, have access to outdoor spaces and have access to certain things to feel more still human. It felt very restrictive. So I would say if I had that, because I know there's so many people who deal with that.
Oh, yes.
There's like a place in the Netherlands that has like a whole like city district.
They have a city. Yeah.
That would be wild. Yeah.
I think if we could have that would be a game changer for here, right?
Yeah.
Because we're still dealing with Katrina. Like, people don't talk about that. Like, we don't have the facilities that we used to have to deal with that, right? And if you're labeled crazy or like off the wall, people just kind of abandon you and throw you away, and that shouldn't happen. We should be meeting people where they are and assisting them in every way we can. So
That's awesome. Yeah. Man. Well, I mean,
you stick to your phone. You stick to your phone.
Listen. All I was thinking about was like, I really want to go. All the time. All right, I went to Meow Wolf one time. Have you heard of Meow Wolf?
I've heard of it.
It's like that is to me was like the best experience of my life. I love a place. This big playground of like art installation. It's kind of like Jam Nola meets the Children's Museum, meets all these different things. Like, I would just love if there was some kind of like exploratory space that kind of combined all the efforts of like the art and the artists and the installationists and the Mardi Gras float people and like playground and like just a place for like adults and children to play and interact, and just like a giant playground of some kind. Like, I would just build the biggest, largest interactive playground possible.
We need that too.
That invigorates science and culture, and like all the nonprofits can really put their efforts into like what they want out of it and really shape this thing for the benefit of the city. So any way I can get more interactive things, I'm all about it. I love interactive things. Disney World, we needed like a Disney World, like a fun Disney World thing here in New Orleans, something like that. So that's my theory.
I like that. If I had answered again, I probably would answer. For the fun thing, I would echo what you said. I would do something that put all.
Are we going into business together?
If you got to start up capital, we can do it.
Everybody needs a money man. We got to find the money man. You know any money?
No, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Great concept.
Yeah. All right.
Thank y'all for coming.
Thank y'all for having us.
Thank you.
Excited to see what's next for the park and be a part of the grand opening.
Please join the movement.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We're in. We gotta get in there.
Got to plug it.
All right. Get on it. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Missions Bayou, powered by Comfy Stone. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the podcast wherever you listen. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment, letting us know your thoughts and who you'd like to hear from next. We'll see y'all next time.